Hi everyone, it's Razyel Kayne. I'm back with another interview, my fourth one. I'm very pleased to introduce a man who needs no introduction, Gregg Berger.
If I need no introduction, why'd you introduce me?
Force of habit.
It's very nice to be with you.
Well, thank you very much. It was great meeting you at TFCon, honestly. One of the highlights of my weekend.
What a wonderful convention with what a big heart. Yes, it was great.
It's TFCon Toronto was my first time. I've never had the chance to go before. I'm a recent collector. All this is 3 years.
That's insane.
It's a lot of
you've
money.
been busy.
I have, and I've worried my wife, and but now we get into I gathered a lot of figures, but now I just cherry pick what I need.
So. My feeling is I have no worries for someone who's passionate about something, and it's I feel the most dangerous word for a generation is whatever. That gets you nowhere.
No, exactly, and
care about something.
Well, this is my midlife crisis, kind of. That's what I was joking to my wife one time, is that I could either do this or get a bike or replace you with a newer model, and she did not like that. So I'm just going to go through the chat quickly. I don't know if you can see it on your side.
I'm not seeing anything yet.
It's if you should have a comment section in StreamYard. So if you spot something that you want to address, let me know. But thanks to Ninja Bill, my partner in crime, we do a book review together of The Wheel of Time from Robert Jordan. Fishy. Oh, this is my girlfriend. She hates attention. So hi, my love.
Hi.
That's always nice. And then we have Memo, my partner, who's been gone for a while, and we see him once in a while, but it's always good to see him.
He's taking blame for part of your collection.
He is. Well, actually, he sent me a Reggar, and one of my only non-Transformer figure is from the show Gargoyles. I have the big Goliath with the big wingspan, and it's pretty cool.
Excellent choice.
So, and then Lone Dragon, responsible for getting me that the latest Bumblebee. So, because it never showed up in Canada.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, we as collector, we try to help each other a lot, and but it's not always easy to do collecting. And one advice:
it takes a village.
Well, it does, and it's also, you have to be careful. It's good not to be a completionist. Like, you can collect some, but if you want to go for everything, you're gonna spend your rent money.
Hey, I've got a larger worldview philosophically about that same point, which is that you can never aim for the result. You have to commit to the process. The results happen when they happen, if they happen. But any of us can commit to that one thing or that strategy that allows you to focus on something. You can't see the big picture as a rule. Not from the starting line. You just add pieces as you go.
Well, exactly. The process is important. Same thing when I started this whole endeavor. I learned a lot about process, just that going through. Because my first video was Dan Gilvezan. And I just, did a bit of research, and I figured I'll just talk. And that's when I realized, no, I need to have a script. I need to have things ready, and then all the pictures I add to the videos and everything. So
he and I went to the same theater conservatory. We did plays in college together with, obviously no one can see the future, but who knew we'd be spending so much of our studio days together as well.
But did you know each other back then, or oh yeah, you did? Okay.
Oh, we've got long history.
Okay. Well, there's something I just want to, because in my research, I watch a lot of panels and everything. And one panel, and I think it was maybe in 2008 or something at TFCon, someone asked a question about your relationship, you two. And he said, would you please remind Gregg that he still owes me $32? So did you ever pay him back?
Entirely possible.
Is that a running gag between you two, or you just made that up? And
I don't remember hearing it before, but
Okay.
I'll address it. It's not impossible.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. You guys have known each other for so long, and you've
Yeah,
had
these days that's a half a gallon of gas.
yeah, gas price in Canada. It's still pretty steep too. We're at
Sure.
187, and usually, 2 years ago we were barely above $1.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty insane. Well, we've been joined by Chris. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey,
He
Chris.
This kid knows everything about voice acting. Like I do my research, he just knows stuff. So
Well,
he's good for that. I told him you should start your own channel.
as to his question about which I enjoyed, Craven or Mysterio on Spider-Man the Animated Series, that's a tie for first place. Craven the Hunter wanted to mount Spider-Man on the wall like a trophy. Mysterio, Quentin Beck, was a master
Mhm.
of special effects and treachery. So how do you decide between two guys who get to chew the scenery every time they show up, which both of them did? Sorry, pal, it's a tie for first place.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, you guys can't really have a favorite character, or maybe you can, but that's one thing I've done a lot of research about is the fact that you guys get asked a lot of questions about the motivation of the character, the intention, what would your character do in this situation? And when I went to TFCon Toronto, I thought we were past that. At this point, a lot of panels have been public, and people know, or in my head, people should know that you guys are not the writers. You're not the creators. You're the actors.
I think you're underestimating your reach as far as homework and doing homework and your immersion into the things that you're interested and excited about. I mean, I've already complimented you on it,
Thank you.
but man, you dig deep and do your homework, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. And that's the I get compliments once in a while from the actual actors, so that's always nice. John Machida was the first one that he actually commented on the video that I was, after 30 years of interviews and shows, that I was the first one to get the story right. And I was like, okay, so that just justified everything I've been doing for a year and a half.
And I'm
'Cause
sure he told you very quickly.
Oh yes, he actually surprised me. I set up an interview with him, and we were talking together backstage a little bit, and nothing too fancy. And then I introduced him same way, and then he goes into a speech, and it's just super fast, and it caught me completely off guard. So I'm just laughing.
I
So
think he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for
he
world's
was,
fastest talking man.
and we talked about the fact that somebody beat the record, but he's in his mind it's a very subjective record because you have to be able to understand the person properly. So, and he can, and I know that when he did Blur on the movie, he wasn't talking at record speed. He was just doing a fast character.
And honestly, on that subject, when I teach or coach dialect work, it's the exact same thing. Intelligibility is key, and it doesn't matter how beautifully you capture a dialect or a country a region. It matters that it's also intelligible because it's a theatrical enterprise. You got to be understood.
Exactly, that makes sense. And then I saw you work. When you were doing the script reading at TFCon, and I saw a lot of people going up to the mic, and I have no courage like that. I remember that little girl who froze, and that was. I hope she goes back next year and knocks it out of the park. But
Oh, heck yes. I hope the same thing.
exactly. So, but I mean, it's a to be able to be understood. It's funny, like the Swedish chef who was there, and he was just voicing everything as a Swedish chef. Couldn't understand half of what he was saying, but it was still
No,
funny.
it was still funny.
Exactly. So,
No.
all right. So
So,
I have a couple questions that I've written up, just so I don't forget anything, and most of them are general question, but it's more about the business.
mhm.
Because that's what my questions were to you at TFCon on the panel. Because when the first person asked you about the motivation of your character, I was like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna ask a question that I know, will be about the business, because I think that's more pertinent to you guys. So I just want to know, was it at an early age that you decided you wanted to be an actor?
No, but I was always really taken by the way people sounded, and I used to try to guess how someone would sound based on just sort of their overall look. And in fact, when I was really young, I've been told this, but I also sort of remember it. I would engage strangers in conversation on the bus or whatever, just to see if they sounded like what I thought they were going to sound like. So, I mean,
Cool.
yeah, my brain was doing things and interested in things and hungry for that sort of view of what it was like, in as someone else. And so my growing up was absolutely just a perfect world for a kid to grow up in. And I grew up as a kid and had the same mischief and all the misadventures and all that stuff that sort of gives you a rich well to pull from when you do get into acting. And so I grew up secure and loved and all that stuff. I wasn't craving attention or applause. I was just, and still am, Cinderella going to the ball every time somebody put a script in my hand. When I did, which was honestly not really till college, and a roommate dragged me to the first audition I went to, and
Okay.
they said they were going outside of the theater department. They were having trouble casting. It was an English drawing room farce. And he said, my roommate said, you every time you tell a joke or a story, you use voices. He said, just go read for it, see what happens. Well, I got in it, and I got so excited by the doing of it that on opening night, when the head of the theater department said, "What are you doing in the English department?" I said, I'm not sure. I'm just pursuing that. And he said, "Well, don't stop that." But he said, "You're exactly the kind of raw talent that we look for." He said, "We would love to have you also turn your interest to the theater department," which I did. So, lucky me, I graduated with a double major. I kept
Okay.
the English studies. I added the theater, and I transferred to a theater conservatory, Webster, then college, now university, where I met Dan Gilvezan, and we were in shows together and classes together and trouble together. and so that was me, at age 19 or 20, and it was still fresh for me. Some kids adults that I work for who were actors that I work with, who were actors when they were kids, they've never known any other sort of real world outside of showing up at the set and being on the sound stage and all of that stuff. So I'm forever grateful for the growing up that I did have, which was just sort of wild and free and enjoying life. That's what you draw from when you're an actor.
Exactly. I mean, it's good. Like, what's his name? David Mendenhall, who was a child actor,
Mhm.
and then he took a big break to pursue academics, and after that, he went back to acting. And because I think he's my latest review,
Mhm.
Spotlight.
Mhm.
And I was actually surprised to find out that he was in so many movies I actually saw growing up. And
Sure.
but I mean, child actor, it's become known that it's a tough life for kids. So
There's no right, there's no wrong. You may end up with a world of experience that no one else has, that is richer for you. It goes back to process and result. Whatever it is, as long as you enjoy the living of it, you're better for it. That's all.
exactly. We have
It
some
is
new
kind of
people.
it is kind of weird to think of a kid who's really a kid star when you walk in and 200 cast and crew and everybody is kind of dependent on you for their job, and making it a success, and that's a lot of pressure it's a lot of pressure for a kid.
Very much.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think a child actor would have been a something I would have pursued, but I think I looking back, I maybe I should have went into something of an entertainment profile more than accounting. So, but I'm doing this, and for now, it's quite satisfactory. I'm having quite.
Look at how many kids. Look at how many kids got a magic set for their birthday, and how few of them, but not none of them, who went on and became world famous magicians.
Exactly.
You never know. And when I do conventions, I did one recently. I mean, I never stopped doing conventions. Thankfully, I've been invited all over the world and had incredible travel opportunities for conventions. But I did one that was exclusively G.I. Joe not long ago. And, I had pretty high up military brass who came to the table and said the spark that lit the interest that became my military career was G.I. Joe. And the same with Transformers. I've had mechanical engineers whose Transformer original toys broke, and they put them back together, and then they got intrigued and they started getting out a pencil and a pad and drawing and thinking, well, this is tied to this and this joins this. And they were actually just doing schematics, and it became so interesting to them that they pursued it for a lifetime. I think that's phenomenal. It
is.
There's no cause and effect, but it triggered something in those minds that changed the direction they went in. I think that's unbelievable.
It's good. I mean, but you guys are in a position. I mean, more nowadays because your names are out there. It's publicized, so it's easy. It's easier for people to know who was voicing each character.
Very much so. It was unheard of at the time we were doing it. It's all kind of an additional benefit of social networking and the internet in general, and just the digital age, and some very dedicated, wonderful fandom who went out of their way to make it all public in the way that it's become, as far as who's doing what, and ties between the number of shows someone's done and how different they are and how versatile or whatever. It's all been rewarded over time, but none of that existed at the time we first started making these shows. You just did it to do it, for the love of the game.
Yes, and that's, I think, an appreciation that I have for you guys now is that you guys do it for the art rather than the fame. And I think that makes for a more authentic performance.
I won't say it's not incredible and wonderful to be able to support a life and support a family and pay a mortgage and do enjoy your life doing what it is that you love doing.
Exactly. So see, my YouTube thing hasn't been monetized yet, so that's gonna take years to come. So
stay tuned.
We have a couple more people in the chat. M3 Review, thanks for stopping by. Casual Toy Collector, thank you. He has a question. Berger, you remember my friend Omar and Kiad do our local toy convention in Sacramento?
I remember Sacramento, and I enjoyed all of the doing of that. Again, it was a convention opportunity. I don't remember those names in specific, but I support anybody who supports the fun of all of it, and particularly in a toy realm. That's fantastic.
Yes, and then I've realized how many people you guys meet in just one day. It's crazy. I mean, I've been lucky able to because I think the fact that I do video spotlight and I send it to you guys and you guys watch it when I approach you, that door's already open. You can recognize me from something, so
right.
That's how I'm able to connect. And I still can't believe it that I've had 4 actors on my channel for an interview. It's just, I'm 44 and I'm living my childhood dream. So
I'm better at remembering faces than names. There's just so many names over time, and you have to figure out where it was, when it was, which chapter of your life it was. But usually when I see faces at my signing tables, there's an air of familiarity, especially if someone actually helps me remember, which is a very nice thing to do.
Exactly. Well, I knew I was going to meet you because you were on the schedule, and I wanted to approach you. And then that's when Michael Bell, when I interviewed him, he said, "Just walk up to him with a microphone and do the interview live right now." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask him." But I said, "What's the best way?" He said, "No, no, just go ask him. It's Gregg Berger. He's going to say yes." I'm like, "Okay."
Honestly, when we see a microphone, we start talking.
Okay, so well, it's good. Good advice for next time if I want to, record somebody else. So, all right, I'm gonna check my questions, guys. We're okay. Do you have any inspirations growing up? That's something I could not find online when I researched you.
Inspirations? Well,
Yeah, like I mean, other actors that inspired you, or just someone in your life, like you mentioned, your
yes, of
roommate
course.
that dragged you.
Right. Those are things that happen along the way. And just philosophically, I think, you can have every intention of finding your direction, but you also have to keep your eyes and ears open if your direction is trying to find you. And that's what happened in my case. It really did. And I wasn't stubborn enough or foolish enough not to see it and listen to it when it was sort of presented to me, directed my way. But as far as inspiration, holy cow. I mean, it was Saturday morning cartoons. It was me in the living room, and it was my time and my day and my Bugs Bunny and Daffy and Elmer and Donald. And, I just loved it. And I just was smitten by the talent and ability of Mel Blanc. When you find out at the end of those Looney Tunes, it says all voice characterizations by Mel Blanc, never knowing or dreaming that I would meet him in session on an episode of what they were calling the New Jetsons. And
Okay.
and I was seated next to him. Gordon Hunt, the director, said, "This is not an accident. I'm putting you next to Mel so that you'll know this is where you belong." And he had seen me on stage. My first love is stage, and probably always will be. There's something about the liveness of all of it, and everything about all of it. But he had seen me, and that's when he brought me into Hanna-Barbera, introduced me as what he thought was part of the next generation. He stopped backstage the night he saw me, and actually it was an understudy in the show and went on that night, and that's when he saw me. He came back and said, "If you're as versatile as what we just saw on stage, we should know about you at Hanna-Barbera." And me being me, who can be polite at my own expense, I wasn't polite in that moment. And I said, "Well, you've had my demo for, months. If you could move it from the bottom of the pile to the top of the pile, I'd love to be doing what you're doing." And he said, "Well, you got a lot of nerve, huh?" And I said, "Normally, none, never." And he laughed, and he said, "I loved it." He said, "I love that you said that." So much so that he brought me in within about a week of that exchange, and began to take an interest in my career. And I bowed to him and thanked him every time I saw him for the rest of my life. Gordon Hunt and Wally Burr, two men who in no small way changed my life every day of the rest of my life by their interest in having me in their shows, in their studios.
Then how was it working with Wally? I mean, we hear a lot of stories about how demanding he was, but I did a spotlight on him, and he was a perfectionist, and it gave results.
It depends on your point of view. Look at the longevity of what he created. He created it because he had the storyboard and story Bible in front of him, and it had to be the way it had to be. He had a vision, and he was going to see that vision fulfilled. Well, for some people who were resistant to that, it was frustrating and maddening. Sometimes he would resort to line readings because it was just the fastest way to get to what he wanted.
And he tried that with Orson Welles, I heard.
He did try that. I heard what you heard.
That's the guts to do that.
But if you look decades later at the fact that there are still a new generation who's coming to those G1 episodes of Transformers and the original G.I. Joe and just getting drawn in all over again. Well, that means he was right. Whatever he demanded or insisted on or needed is what he needed, and he got what he needed. So
Yeah,
I never had anything but respect for him, to be honest with you, and I believe it was mutual. And it was so early in my career that I was so busy taking notes and just sort of watching and listening to everything, everybody, and every word that it was my animation voicing first real world school. You can study and study and study, but it's different when you're playing baseball all of your life and when you step into the stadium and step up to home plate and it's the game and you're in it. And what do you do now?
Exactly. So, it was very different to be a YouTuber watcher. And, I was, with these people in the chat, and then I decided to step up and do something on my own, and I wanted to do something different. But that's when I realized how much work it is. Like one spotlight is about 40 hours now. When I started, it was way more than that. But reading everything and then writing the script, and it's a process. But I found out by doing this that I love editing. I actually adore it.
All of your work shows. Your spotlights are astonishing. I mean, they're so deeply researched. And I don't even know where you pull some of the clips and things that you find, but you find them.
I find clips, pictures. There's a lot of stuff that I find in other interviews that you've done. Like you did one with future voice actor Grossman years back. And I listened to that. And then you mentioned a couple things in there. So I'm able to add that. And then there's a written interview. So I'm pulling from that. But also IMDb, Wikipedia, sometime will have good information.
Very much so.
But it's good. Well, going back to Wally Berger, I think he's the reason why we still have new versions of, characters like Grimlock.
Why, it's a masterpiece.
This is a mainline figure. Oh. And because there is a masterpiece class.
I know.
But this guy is fantastic. And then I have this one here, which is Jetfire, and he's huge. And
Jetfire needs to be huge because he was huge.
But this one is he's the standard for commander class. He's pretty good. And I also have Long Haul, but he's in Devastator somewhere there.
Yeah, well, Long Haul didn't join his outfit to be no dump truck. I mean, being part of Devastator was very cool, I must admit. But remove. It's enough already. And meet Grimlock, no kisser.
There's a line.
Bozo, me king.
But there's a question. My friend Memo, he's been, since I mentioned I was getting, he was like, ask him this. So he wants to know if the line, me Grimlock kick butt, did you ad-lib that and they added it, or that's in the script?
I wish I had. That's our wonderful writers. Everything they put in was so golden. There was no real improv asked for or necessary. It was all so good. Me Grimlock kick butt. It's become T-shirts. It's become iconic.
Oh yeah. I mean, merchandising of Grimlock is insane. My girlfriend says she doesn't speak English, but she said that Grimlock is her favorite.
I can tell. Thank you, Catherine.
So she's blushing right now. I can
me Grimlock blushing too.
There you go.
Tell Grimlock about Petro rabbits.
Yeah, I do have salami. So that's one of my questions I ask a lot of you guys because you're one of the very few actors who started in season 1, also played in season 2, played in the movie, survived, and then went to season 3. So you've worked with every crew.
every crew, and then on into games and additional incarnations, and
Yeah, exactly.
they still call, and I still answer.
Because you
It-
were also in Power of the Primes,
right.
the show, and the Devastation game, and so working with all the crew from the G1 era, the season 1, 2, 3, and the movie, and was it a different atmosphere after the movie? Like when Peter Cullen died and Frank Welker changed to do Galvatron, and then suddenly the stars weren't them; it was uh,
Eric
God,
Idle and Robert
Jack
Stack
Angel,
and
Rodimus,
Leonard Nimoy.
exactly. So all this switch, was it just, oh, that's part of the job, we'll get another contract, or was there contempt? Was there, what was the atmosphere after the movie?
I don't think there was ever contempt. I
Okay,
don't
good.
even. I think it was just. I can only answer for myself, and it's part of why fandom has been so unbelievably loyal over time, with all the twists and changes to the canon, to the lore, to everything, and the goal of any project going to the big screen is the story has to get bigger, everything has to get bigger, everything about it has
Hmm.
to be big screen. And the question is not so much whether celebrities are brought in, the question is, are they right for the parts they're being brought in for? You don't want to put a square peg in a round hole. But I thought everybody was fantastic. I've done conventions with um, 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 um,
Yeah.
there goes my brain. At any rate, uh, um,
Well, you do a
um,
lot of conventions. You're
I
very active.
no, I do a lot of conventions, and the love for all of the twists and changes and um, everything about it over time. The fans have been so allowing of things, and to know that it was Orson Welles' last job, and that his last job was as a planet devouring entity orb. Everything about it was big and impressive, and the fact that I made it through all of that with almost every line I said becoming a catchphrase that people still say. A group of us went to I think it was 35th anniversary screening of it.
Okay.
We did a
Wow.
surprise pop in at one of the theaters. We did a pop up kind of panel. We're all still friends. We spent so many hours together over those years that it actually allowed us to bond and become friends for life. So but that screening was like a party. People were throwing popcorn, and basically like Rocky Horror Picture Show, they knew all the lines. This is just part of all of the evolution of the phenomenon that is Transformers, and it is a phenomenon.
It is. I mean, it's we're celebrating 40 years
It's insane.
in 2024, and it's as popular. I mean, there was a lull, after Beast Wars and Beast Machines, and then the movie, the Bayverse movie brought it back. And as much as I not a fan of, well, I like the first two movies, but after that, it just wasn't for me. But I still appreciate the fact that it reignited the fandom.
Hmm.
And now we're getting, with the War for Cybertron line, we're getting figures. Basically, they took the cartoons and actually made them as is, because the toys back in 84, 85 were very different from what
Very different.
exactly. I have a Sunstreaker, and you can tell because he's a Lamborghini, but it's still very different. So now they're producing figures like Sideswipe, and he looks just like what we had in the show. So it's all because we want more. I mean, a couple of shows have been disappointing, and honestly, the reason I started doing this was because I was trying to find my niche, find something to do that's different than just doing toy reviews, which I also do. And I wanted to. Everybody was complaining about the voice acting in War for Cybertron, specifically about the impressionist. The impressionist they use to do an impression of Peter Cullen.
Hmm.
as Optimus Prime rather than having someone doing their own Optimus Prime. And he couldn't deliver. The emotion we got was more, it sounded more like Batman when he got angry, like Christian Bale Batman. So
Uh-huh.
it was so I decided, okay, well, instead of complaining like everybody else about the bad voice acting and the fact that Netflix used non-unionized actor, I said I'm just going to show them back what it was that made the cartoons great back then. So, and I
Well,
did most of G1. So
you were talking about the changes over time. If you compare the animation style itself from G1 to, say, Prime or something further down the line that's so sophisticated, or the Bayverse that is so sophisticated as far as the visual eye candy of it, spectacular. But there's something about that original style. It's not anime and it's not super computer CGI.
yeah,
But it's its own thing, and there's some things. It's like the difference between a squeaky clean CD and a beautiful vinyl pressing. Some things just you can't tell. You can't say why they just draw an audience to them, but they do. And there's something special about it, some X factor that you can't really analyze or dissect. You just accept it, because when you show G1 to a kid, they are drawn in. That's another side of the convention phenomenon for me, is that people are bringing their kids, and in some cases their grandkids, and they're in love with G1. It blows my mind. Judd Nelson and I did what was at that point the last BotCon, although BotCon is restarting. BotCon is coming back.
okay,
But he had been away from the franchise itself for some time, and he was blown away at just the amount of love and loyalty that was out there for the 86 feature that we did. It's a beautiful thing. You can't, the same way that you can't make your video go viral, there are videos that go viral. But you can't dissect it. You can't, you just, if you're lucky enough to be that video, then enjoy it, embrace it and be glad that it's happening.
yeah.
But
There's stuff that
if it was possible to dissect it and create it, then every video would be viral, and
exactly.
and they're not.
I mean, I have videos that have been very popular. Like I think of the voice actor Chris Latta, he reached over 3,000 overnight, and I think it's because the fact that he's not around anymore, people
Sure.
wanna know about him, and
Sure.
so. But then I have other videos that I've produced, and they don't do as well as I thought that it would be. You can't analyze the that part. There's a question from Ninja Bill. Did you feel inspired for being nominated for multiple BTVA awards?
Ninja Bill, any attention is flattering, but nominations up to including the Annie Award, which was for animation in general, all of them they're just so affirming and validating. And of course, they're inspiring as well, because that an audience is responding to what you're putting out there. So yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say it's like a spiritual pat on the back that something you're doing or everything you're doing is reaching its intended audience. That's not a small deal in this world.
Okay. Oh, there you go, Ninja Bill.
There you go, Ninja Bill.
Yeah, because I always used to say I'm going to take question from the chat at the end, but then I run out of time. And then, so now if I spot a couple of things.
It's fun this way. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's that at first I wasn't sure if I was going to do live interview or pre-recorded with editing, but I decided, let's just do like a panel, and
that's
just
great.
have fun like that. So,
I like when it's question driven.
Well, exactly. There's stuff though that I'm filtering out just because I know I'm like, no, this has nothing to do with the actor. It's a writer's question. So.
No. That was actually a comment about analog versus zeros and ones and squeaky clean sound. There's something to be said for putting the needle down on the vinyl and just
Yep.
kicking back on the couch. And there's a warmth to it that you can't have when you end up with mediums that are so sterile from being squeaky clean that they lack that warmth. When we were originally recording Transformers and G.I. Joe and everything in those days at Hanna-Barbera, just to speak to a variation of the same point, we always had octopus mics. It made it much more difficult for the sound editor and the mixer because we were all in the studio at the same time. Yes, there was some overlap or this or that, things that had to be cleaned up, but it was so alive. And we, just like if you put all the musicians in the room at the same time, if it's Abbey Road and all the Beatles are playing at the same time, something happens to artists and it becomes contagiously this or that. We were fighting galactic war, so it had more intensity like that. G.I. Joe became a more real encounter and fighting ground or whatever. For Firefly, at least.
That's right. You voiced that. You did Firefly. I don't think I put it in the intro, because you did Corn-Fed Pig, which was a show I did watch back then when those type of shows were starting out. That it was Teletoon in Canada who had them. And
I did do Corn-Fed Pig, and the first time I read for him, there was a pig there, a really cute pig with a skinny tie and a stingy brimmed hat, and right next to it said "Just the facts, ma'am." So I thought, well, thank goodness I watched too many Dragnets growing up.
Dragnets. Didn't you play in Dragnets?
Not Dragnet per se.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused. But you did play.
No, but I loved them.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, but you did play in a cult classic now, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Attack of the Killer Tomato. Yes, I did.
Sorry, I just have to mute. I have a porn bot, and that always happens on those live chats. They just show up, and then they want us to, consume. But yeah, you were on Attack of the Killer Tomato. That was a small part, big part.
It was a small part, but I was, again, it goes back to theater. I was on tour, a tour of a Neil Simon comedy. It ended in San Diego, where I met my my once and forever wife, where I decided that at the end of that tour, I was either going to go to New York or go to Los Angeles and really find out if I could reach a larger audience with my talent. And there were 2 feature films that were casting not extras, but smaller parts, and also shooting in San Diego while I was there. I saw it in the paper. I made sure I got to these open auditions. I got seen. I got taken seriously. And Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, I'm in one scene where I'm pointing out differences on the map, and the blue line is the advance of the tomatoes, sir, and the red line is the advance of the ketchup, sir, or whatever. My commanding officer says, "What are those yellow marks on the map?" And I say, "Those are Shell stations, sir." And they pan out, and it's a map from a Shell service station.
That's awesome.
So, but that was my first appearance in a feature film. I was beside myself. Then, in the same while we were still in San Diego, I read for a movie called The Stuntman, which is a cult classic in a much more artistic vein. And the director was Richard Rush, and the star was Steve Railsback. And I'm in the first scene of the film, and we're out in the mountains of San Diego, and it's real, and there's a scene that bursts through a screen door, and he makes a bolt for it, and I've been talking to him not knowing who he is or that he's a wanted guy, and that's how the film takes off. Just fantastic opening action sequence. So I'll never forget San Diego for a million reasons, and now I have family there.
Okay, so you met your wife there, you have family there, and did you do any other long feature films? Um,
Spaced Invaders was a very proud moment. I did a lot of films that I was featured in, but I'm co-starring in Spaced Invaders as Steve. I tend to do voice-driven characters. I'm Steve W. Klembecker, the president of the Farmers Trust of Big Bean, Illinois. The night that the Martians hear Orson Welles' War of the Worlds and think that the invasion has begun. They're circling Big Bean, Illinois.
classic.
Yeah, and they think they're supposed to start. And I'm in Police Academy Mission to Moscow. I'm Yuri Talinsky from Russian police. So
I didn't remember that.
We lived through Russian winter, an attempted revolution in Russia. It's a very powerful memory because we're there to shoot comedy, and all of my ancestry is Russian, so it made it easy for them to consider me.
Okay, and so you shot in the, because I mean, Police Academy was such an iconic series.
Totally on location.
Okay.
And that turned out to be my very first movie poster art. We're all in a big pyramid, and I'm at the bottom of the pyramid.
Okay, I have to find that poster now. That I totally forgot you were, because it's probably in my review, but I forgot about it. Okay, what do I still have? You're still active today, and both on stage and on voiceover. You were doing that script reading in TFCon for that, I guess, fan fiction.
Yes.
I feel like voice actors, they never actually do retire. Am I wrong?
When the story I was telling you about Mel Blanc was an episode of what they were calling the New Jetsons. But I'm there and I'm nervous and I'm the new kid, and and all of a sudden, Dawes Butler, Don Messick, the guys who play Elroy Jetson. Don Messick was Ranger Smith in Yogi Bear.
Yep, I do a spotlight on Don Messick.
June Foray, who
an absolute legend.
Was Rocky. Janet Waldo, Judy Jetson. My character, a curly quasar that day that they called me in. I had a blind date with Judy Jetson, and there's Janet Waldo, and then I'm acting with her, and I'm acting with Mel Blanc, and it's just a really amazing set of circumstances I have found myself in over time. Fantastic.
But Mel did. I know Don Messick retired, because in my spotlight I mentioned that I think you were there at his retirement party. Am I wrong? At a Chinese restaurant?
No, I mean, we lost him. I didn't work with him much, but
okay.
I do remember when he passed away. And I didn't work with any of them a lot, but the fact that I worked with them at all, and with Jonathan Winters on Garfield, and with Don Knotts, and with James Earl Jones, and it's just astonishing. And again, June Foray and Stan Freberg would come in. I was with all of my heroes, and they may not be household names to this generation, but trust me, they were to me.
Oh, but they are legends. I mean, even more, I mean, they built the basics for you guys to come in, and then you guys took over and just pushed it so much further.
Exactly. And, that will happen again. The torch gets handed. And I always picture, a new person on the floor watching whatever that show is for them, and getting excited all over again. I do voice coaching now, and I'm enjoying paying it forward, the things that I know, the things that I've learned, and it makes me feel good. And there's some very good talent on the way up, and it's nice to have a hand in the growth that they're experiencing. I like the word coaching more than the word teaching, because I really like helping someone help themselves. That they're doing the work. You're just sort of sitting,
guiding them.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what drew you to it? The coaching.
Exactly that. Pay it forward. Help. Look, I am of the opinion that if you're fortunate enough to climb that ladder of success, you're obliged to reach back and help somebody else up. I don't want to tar and feather and set the ladder on fire and push it over on whoever's trying to get there next, you know.
That's very noble.
I think there's always room for it's not about who you can sound like, because they already have us. It's what you can bring to the party that's not already at the party. And I don't think anyone who has a talent that's unique and individual will not be noticed. It doesn't necessarily lead to instant success, but it means you'll be noticed. It means if you want to be remembered, be memorable, you know, do something in your own way, and don't be afraid of the work, and just do what comes next. Now you're back to process and result. You can't create your success, but you can do what comes next. You know, you can look for that next project or that next move, or that makes for a beautiful life. You do it for a whole bunch of decades and call it a career, or call it a lifetime, or whatever you want.
I mean, it's a career. It's an achievement. I mean, you've been in this business for so long, and you've been very successful at it. And, it takes perseverance. And, that's what I'm realizing, that a lot of you were self-driven. I don't think, and I hope it never comes to that, in a sense that there's no shows like The Voice where they would just look for the next voice actor, to be voicing, whatever new cartoons coming up or stuff like that. I think the fact that you guys go for the art and the love of performing, and then you're still doing stage acting and everything, it's much more personal. It's much more interesting. And for us, we get the result. And
I'm not the first or last person to say this, but it's voice acting. The emphasis is on the acting, and actors tend to survive and thrive in this industry because it all falls to your acting. If you've done all the work in improvisation and acting training, the voice will follow. The voice will always ring true, because you're realizing characters in 3 dimensions. It's not just a silly voice. It's a character.
Yeah, and you mentioned in an interview, it's important to pitch a voice that you can maintain.
You better, because you don't know whether you're around for an episode or 35 years.
Exactly. Like Grimlock was a decade span career, and it would have been weird if you couldn't.
Beryllium baloney.
There you go. I have a couple questions from the chat. Lone Dragon, he's been asking it like 5 times. I know that Peter Cullen did Eeyore on most of the Winnie the Pooh, but you also did Eeyore. Is it something that would you call Peter first and say, hey, there's this thing coming up, are you okay with me taking it? Or
no, but that's because different divisions of Disney used different of us. There were several. Well, I am lucky enough to be one of the Eeyores, so that works for me in the 100-acre wood. But whoever they called is who did that project. So I'm happy for every call I got, and every call he got, and every call Bud Lucky got, and every call Brad got. So whoever gets it, gets it. There are different people and powers that be in the Disney hierarchy that
it just happens. Okay.
It just happens. The thing is, when you're part of the talent pool, you go when you're called. There's a number of things that are in your control as far as preparation, but there's a whole world of things that are outside of your control as far as who calls you in. I don't think it's your job to talk them out of that. There have been, now this is a different kind of thing, but sometimes someone who has had a role forever and you'll hear about some recasting that's going on, which never makes sense to those of us who are friends of each other. And in those cases, absolutely call them up and say, are you aware of this? Did you, are you okay? Do you want me, do you care if I read for, and as a rule, yes, of course, people who have worked a lifetime on something care if there's something going on that might be avoidable as far as recasting.
Okay, because I mean, it's there's I always use the same comparison when I talk about attachment to characters.
Mm-hmm.
There's Michael Bell, who every time he's going to interview and people ask them, what drew you to this character, and most of the time he's going to answer it was a job. So that's one perspective, that it's just a job. As much as you can get attached to a character, or
Right.
that if you love the experience, it's still just a job. But then you have another actor, Gary Chalk, who, when Ron Perlman was cast as Rodimus Primal for the upcoming Rise of the Beast Transformer movie, he got very vocal and active on Twitter, retweeting, people saying that he should have gotten the role again.
Mm-hmm.
And in panels and interview, you feel that he's very attached to Rodimus Primal. So do you think it's healthier for an actor to be more detached to the characters that they sometimes create?
I don't think it's voluntary. I think it's involuntary. I think if you're the kind of person who attaches, then you attach. And if you care, you care. You can't not care just because you pretending you don't care. By the way, Ron Perlman was with me the whole time in Russia on Police Academy, as was Christopher Lee. It was an extraordinary cast.
Yes, it was.
we had a great big time.
There's a charm to the Police Academy series that I've never seen again.
Very much so.
Oh, we have a guest of honor in the chat, Rodimus Primal, who's basically, it's because of him that I'm starting collecting and everything, because he does a lot of, he does Transformers retrospective. So the opposite of me, he takes one character and shows you every iteration of that character.
Wow. So, hey, Rodimus, it's Grimlock.
There you go. Chris Milchev wants to know, you work with Chris Salter on Marvel Ultimate Alliance, a very good video game, where I think you did Atuma and The Thing.
The Thing, yeah.
And how was working on that video game?
Well, it was fantastic. Chris was Gordon Hunt's assistant, so I've known her since the first day I walked into Hanna-Barbera. So as my career was growing and ascending, her career was growing and ascending.
Okay.
But we know each other from the beginning, and so we've been fans of each other for the better part of a lifetime. So of course it's a dream to work with her as director. Plus, I agree. I thought that was a great script and a great experience, and to be able to step into The Thing for a period of time was fantastic too.
Yeah, classic character. And...
yeah, so it's always nice to add that to the resume.
And as far as the work, is it harder to voice a non-speaking character like Odie, which you're famous for, because you did it for so many years, but he doesn't speak? Exactly.
Wow. He emotes. They write what's happening, and then you jump in, and a lot of it is actions, and a lot of it is implied. If he could talk, what would he say? And to just give it intonations and things, because it's a buddy comedy. I mean, they're like Hope and Crosby, or Duckman and Cornfed, or Abbott and Costello. It's Garfield and Odie. So one of them talks and the other one barks, slurps, and emotes. But the chemistry is still the same. So it's actually fun if you look at it. If you look at it the right way, to have a restriction and realize you have to accomplish all of this stuff, but you don't have the luxury of language to accomplish it.
But is it harder on the throat? Is it on the voice? Like, do you do let's say, I don't know, a 4-hour recording of Odie? you get
Right.
raspy, you get tired, or
I think it's all you have to take care of that instrument. If that's what you play in the orchestra, you better take care of your instrument and rosin your bow or whatever violin players do. I just think you need to be economical with your voice when you're not on a microphone, and don't be that big a blabbermouth that you won't have anything left for the session. Put your effort into the work and not into the time after work.
right, which makes sense. So I'm pretty much done with my questions because you already touched on the fact that because I've always I asked you this at TFCon because I find it intriguing to have your people's opinion, and I think your response was very politically correct. The fact that I always categorize actors into voice actors into there's you guys who can do anything, and then there's celebrity voice actors who are hired for the name. Like, for instance, that new Super Dog movie casting of Dwayne The Rock Johnson's and Kevin Hart, which we all know have chemistry outside on screen, and
Very
now
much so.
they're bringing that. So, do you feel that's a casting that makes sense, or is it something that they could have hired? My camera just fell. They could have hired Frank Welker and you to do those characters, and it would have been the same for the kids.
My answer is always the same. Maybe it would have been the same for the kids. It's really a question of what they consider the optimum casting for that part. If they're casting only on the basis of celebrity and box office appeal and all of that, then it's the same as every on-camera movie if you get right down to it. But I don't have time in this life to carry anything other than good feelings for whoever it is that's cast in whatever it is. And when it's me, boy, I don't stop celebrating. But when it's someone else, more power to them. But I know the panel that you're referring to, and the answer I gave was that it's a casting dilemma. And it goes back, we talked earlier in this interview about a square peg in a round hole. If you're casting someone simply for their name value and they're totally wrong for the thing that you're casting them in, well, then shame on you. But if they're right for it, then that's the way it goes. There's a lot of publicity that you get that you wouldn't otherwise get when a celebrity is attached to a project.
Okay. Well, it's still my favorite question. So every actor is going to come here. That's my go-to question because I want people's opinion because let me tell you, the answers vary.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So some people care a lot, some people don't, and I'm just the curious guy out of all this. So we've been at it for an hour. That's usually where I draw a line because I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm just gonna check if there's anything in. There's a comment for you here. Hold on. Thank you so much for your performance. When my wife saw and heard Grimlock in the 86 movie, she instantly fell in love with the character. So I think right there, that's praise. That's
me, Grimlock, love Cubs war stories.
Exactly. See that these are lines that I've heard 1,000 times, and I'm gonna because the movie's right here, so it plays all the time in the series, and I have for my videos I go get a lot of samples and everything, so I've watched this 1,000 times now. So
very, very cool.
And okay, I don't know why Lone Dragon wants to know this, but he said any chance of some baby.
He's referring to Baby, the cockatoo on Frasier. I did that for 2 seasons. I also did an Orkanaga chomp named Bebo on Mork and Mindy.
Okay.
Who scurried all over the set. But on Frasier, Niles has a cockatoo who...
yes, that's you? Here,
yeah, that's me. His name is Baby. And he overhears all of... Frasier and Niles sort of disrespecting everybody in the building.
Exactly.
So that when they all come to a dinner party, Baby says, and here is what he says. They're in the middle of this very high echelon, sophisticated dinner party, and all of a sudden, Baby says,
Carol's a lush, Peter's a lech, Stephanie's horny.
That's awesome. See, that's the thing. Like, I find out a lot of things, stuff I've consumed. Like, I found out that Frank Welker was the monkey in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
very cool.
And to me, it was like, oh my God. So, and that's the thing, doing the spotlight and researching and finding out that you guys have been in my life since I'm 6 years old. And yeah, you know, sometimes, like Michael Bell, the reason my channel is called Razyel Kayne Reviews is because I've played Legacy of Kane, in which he voiced Raziel.
To my Terrell.
Yes, you were Terrell.
I
That's
was
right.
Terrell.
So did you do a lot of ensemble read with the cast, or you were alone on that session?
A lot of that was done isolated, but Michael and I recorded a lot of stuff together. It was usually groups of one, and I mean, either you're by yourself or with one other character. It was very rare to have more than two in the booth at the same time.
Okay, because I there's that's something about that game that's, like, to me, that's iconic, is that there's actual footage of the recordings. Like, we can go online and see people, all those legends voicing those characters and having a joke in between and everything. And to me, I had no idea how those sessions went, and this gave me my first peek into what it was back then. I mean, I can only imagine you guys sitting with Scatman Crothers when he's, plucking on his ukulele, and you guys just fooling around, and Frank Welker doing the cricket for the sound guy. And I mean, that's these moments. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall.
If you want to know what an angel looks like, you would have to have been in session with Scatman and just look at the beauty, the true beauty of that smile and that face. And I know he probably saw plenty of stuff that was not so great, but
Yeah,
just that radiant smile really lit up a room. Absolutely.
yeah. I did the spotlight on him, and he's the only one I use jazz as a background music, because I thought it was really fitting. And I discovered a lot of his music doing that. And I mean, I was born at the wrong time. I would have loved to just listen to Scatman's records back when I was growing up. So well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to meeting with me. And also, I have I have your autograph. I haven't put it on the wall yet, but it's been there the whole time.
That's
And
great.
I have to compliment you on something. You don't age. I mean, this and your voice is the same. So, congratulations.
So far, so good.
Exactly. And I hope to hear you again as Grimlock, or possibly Skyfire, or many other characters in the futures. Thanks everyone in the chat who showed up. It's always a pleasure, and I think I did better at getting a couple of your questions in, guys. So don't leave, Greg. I'm just gonna do the outro, and just give me a quick second. I'm not prepared because I do have the whole outro going. So
Thank you, everybody.
Yep, and
Sincerely.
and any upcoming project that's coming out soon that you're not under NDA?
The three letters that we live with is NDA. I'm not allowed to talk about the things that I'm doing, but I'm doing.
Okay.
And keep those cards and emails coming in.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much. So if you like this interview, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Also, leave a comment. I love reading those. And remember, nothing in life gives you the right to be an asshole. Take care.